just college admissions, but specifically theater, college admissions, and auditions. And the purpose of this is to reduce some anxiety, give you information, have you listen to the experts, these seniors who have just been through the process and been very successful. And also Mr. Manzelli, who is the chair of our theater department, will be our expert here today too. So I'm really just kind of facilitating. And what we're going to do is just kind of start off with a few questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So actually, probably what we should do is let me have you guys introduce yourselves.
Is it like
Just
like
say-
name like what school you're going to or something? Or does it matter?
No, sure. They're all theater seniors, but they'll let you know where they're planning to go next. And what you're planning to major into. It's not uniform.
Hi, I'm Melissa McClintock. I'm going to the University of Southern California for a BFA in theater.
Hi, my name is Jayla Ellis. I'm currently undecided, but my major is film and television. I also got into University of Southern California. I know it. I know it.
Hi, I'm Faber Bucci. I'm going to Carnegie Mellon for their musical theater program.
Hi, my name is Jada Story. I'm going to Savannah College of Art and Design for television and film.
Hi everyone, my name is Nathan Reed, and I will be going to Fordham University with a BA in theater.
Okay, so these guys have all been through this process. I'm going to start out with the boring stuff first. So that way we'll get that part over. There are, generally speaking, 3 degrees that you might get if you're pursuing theater after you graduate from ASFA, which is sort of the focus of this program. I know people go in different directions, but that's the focus of this program. So there are 3 main degree options that people pursue after ASFA. There's the BFA, the Bachelor of Fine Arts. There's the Bachelor of Music, that's a little bit more rare, but sometimes that's available in musical theater. Then there's the BA, the Bachelor of Arts. There's not such a thing as a BS in theater, is there? Just double checking.
Yeah.
I wondered if maybe there was a tech or I wanted to put it. Okay, so those are the 3 main ones. The big differences are, and Mr. Manzelli can kind of maybe chime in on this one, but basically my understanding is with the BFA, you're spending about 70% of your time in college on theater or musical theater, whatever it is your arts focus is. And then the other 30% roughly, these are rough percentages, the other 30% roughly would be your general education classes or electives or other things. And the focus of the BFA is, it's usually performance. You know, that you want to perform at some level or maybe go on and teach as well. But that's the focus there. With the Bachelor of Arts, it's going to be a little bit more even. Usually it's something like 60% theater or musical theater and 40% general education, or sometimes you might get closer to 50-50. But usually the purpose of a Bachelor of Arts, not purpose, but maybe the bonus of it is it's easier to double major or major and minor in something unrelated. It's not that one is better than the other, it's just the time that you spend and the focus, basically. And then there's the Bachelor of Music, which again, sometimes some musical theater programs, it's kind of rare, but there's a few out there that focus on Bachelor of Music. And those, they require training in music and theory and ear training. And then in addition, they might require more intensive study of theory than a BFA or a BA. So Bachelor of Music musical theater students take the same theory courses as students studying composition, instrumental performance, music history, and all of the other sort of musical concentrations and classes you might take in a traditional music degree. And they may require students to take courses in things like conducting, music history, or piano. The other thing is some colleges may offer more than one type of degree. So you might be able to do a BFA or a BA in the same college, and you have to choose, or a BM or a BA or something like that. So what else would you like to add?
It's really about specialization. The BFA is considered the more difficult because of the number of credit hours. It's about credit hours. Conservatory programs are generally BFA programs. And if you think you might want to also do other things, BAs are really good options in that way. That you're taking a degree in theater, but you want more time to take a double major or a minor or other fallback kind of options. BFA leaves very little time for that. So that's kind of the way they're looked at. In theory, the BFA is considered a little bit more advanced degree, I suppose, if you were to go on to like further study, but it depends on what field. It's very nuanced depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, and one of my like strongest situations in the very end was a BM program at Baldwin Wallace University, and Miss Zoe, our like musical theater teacher, she also got a BM. So like if you have any questions, she can answer a lot. But yeah, like for us, like what Miss Zoe was talking about with credit hours, it's a lot of just music focused, like what you're talking about, music history, taking a lot of music theory, piano. Like usually schools will make you take like only 2 years of piano, but this program will make you take like 4 years or like 6 semesters, things like that. And so it's just like more, you just get more like detailed in jazz music with less acting and dance classes.
Pretty much you won't find a BFA program and very few BM programs that don't require auditions. They pretty much always will require an audition, whereas it's not unusual for a BA program not to have an audition.
So from a person that is going to a BA, I think a BA for me, what brought me to choose a BA was the holistic or the more well-rounded aspect of nature of educational process. I get to learn about things that I also get, like the other things I want to learn about outside of theater and outside of acting, like psychology or anthropology, those things that also can help fuel your development in other aspects of your life. So yeah, and research as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask questions as well, but I'm kind of in between a BFA and a BA program right now. So I was wondering, like, if I did want to do like a master's degree program, which one would look better?
So that's a trick. I mean, I taught at a university for 12 years, and there was always this trick of there would sometimes be a stigma associated to the idea that if you didn't get a BFA, you weren't a serious acting student. That's a lie and not true. Okay, if you don't, I have a BA in theater because I have a double major in political science as well as theater.
Yeah.
And same way you said, Nayland, I wanted to study more classes that universities had to offer. It did not stop me from going to a master's program or theoretically doing pretty well with my life in this field. It really depends on what you want to do, right? So it's kind of case by case in that way, but I don't think necessarily, it's not a line. It doesn't get drawn that way.
So why don't we start talking about how, one of the things that you guys suggest that we talk about is how to find a theater program that's a good fit for you. So how did you go about doing it? What resources did you use?
So for me personally, for just picking musical theater programs, I've done a lot of like summer programs and had a lot of mutual friends that had gone to universities. So I was asking them like what college lists did they do and like things like to make sure that I had a well-rounded list full of like safeties, targets, and reach schools. And so that was my biggest thing as well. And then like Miss Rutsky has like a list of all the like MT and acting programs, like you can have like those things too. And so like I just really researched like if I'm interested in this, so what school should I go to, things like that. And so yeah, I did a lot of research for things that I personally thought were important, like diversity and location and things like that. But one thing that I think helped me as well is that I didn't go on campus right away. Like I didn't go on campus until after I got accepted, just because if I'm like researching a program and I didn't end up getting in, but I spent all this money to go on campus, then it kind of like was for nothing. So that's why like I did that during spring break after I knew like what were my top choices, so I could see if I fit in that list.
Unlike Faber, I didn't really do a lot of research on like the most well-rounded schools. I just went on Google and I was like the top 10 acting schools, and that's how I kind of formulated my list. Because I knew that I wanted to go to a school that would make personally my arts degree what I like was like I want to go to either New York or California. And if I didn't get into those schools that I wanted to go to, I would go for a different degree. I would have gone for like psychology and gone pre-law. So I applied to a lot of schools, both for education, kind of more based, and then also arts degrees. But for me, with my list, like I said, I knew where I wanted to go, like location-wise, because for me, I really want to do more film kind of acting stuff. So I wanted a school within LA, so I applied to like 4 or 5 within LA. I applied to a few within New York City. And also I knew that I wanted a campus life. I didn't really want somewhere like Juilliard where it was a conservatory, because I love ASFA and everything it has to offer, but I wanted a more like social aspect of college, where I could have like the options of like Greek life and that sort of thing. So that was how I formulated my list too, and I was like, I want a conservatory within the classic kind of college, which is why USC was perfect for me.
Yeah. And just like one thing, don't be scared for like your like mind to change, because I think like for me, like I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But like I think there's ideas like, oh, I only want to be in New York, I only want to be in California, but there are so many beautiful schools everywhere, and like some of the top programs actually aren't in the cities that, you know, like are ideally like, you know, like I guess the art schools. So it's really just like understanding what you feel like, what program really fits you the best, because there's so many great programs. There's so many programs that we all get into, but what do you feel like is curated for you as an individual?
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me personally, like when I was first applying to colleges, I didn't know anything about anywhere or, you know, anything. So like Melissa, I went on to Google and I was like, best film schools in America, da da da. And I was just like looking at the first few things that came up. I was like, okay, I'll put this on my list, I'll put this on my list. And like it's a good start because it gets you looking into like options that you want to look at, and as you get deeper you find more and more options that are more affordable or more like that are closer or like that are better suited to whatever you need. And for me personally, I also knew where I wanted to go, and I knew I kind of wanted to stay. It's not that I didn't want, I mean, it's not that I want to stay close, but I know I didn't want to go super far is my thing. And so I'm going to the SCAD campus in Atlanta, and SCAD has a really good film program, and I wouldn't have known that until like I like deep dived onto the internet about film schools and just looked at all of the places that like, and I could immediately cut what I knew I didn't want. And for my thing, like I was kind of insecure about my college decision list because I was like, am I being too safe? Like, should I go out there? Should I apply to these California schools? Even though I knew that I didn't want it, but I was like, well, these are the best schools, so maybe I should go out and I apply for them. But if you know what you want, it's okay to not go out and, you know what I mean? You don't have to compare yourself like, and like say, oh, this person applied here, or these people are applying here, or this website says I should apply to this, and it's the #1 school in America. Like, if you know that's not what you want, you don't feel pressured to pick that, because it's a waste of your time and it's a waste of your money. So, not saying you have to know what you want right off the bat, but if you kind of have an idea, stick to those kind of options until you change your mind. Like, yeah, like Favor was saying, don't be afraid to change your mind. If you decide later, I think I might want to apply to a California school after seeing your other options, that's like, do it, because if you don't, you're gonna regret it. Like, you're gonna have all these what ifs, like what if I apply it here and I could have ended up there, because it became an option in your mind, but you never took the chance. So yeah, that's kind of how I came to my decision, knowing what I wanted and like centering that into all of my like college decisions to choose what's best for me.
Yeah, and kind of going off what Dana said, I recommend that nobody did what I did because I kind of knew where I wanted to go. I knew I wanted to be at USC for like a long time, and so when I was doing applications, I was like, I kind of did what Melissa did, and I was like, oh, okay, let me type in the best film schools, applied there, didn't research any of them. I mean, I researched them, but not thoroughly. Like, I think really, genuinely, if you are interested in a college, do as much research on it as possible, because when it's time to make a decision and you've gotten in a situation where you don't know if you can go to your top school, it's really important to know that you have other options that you actually like.
Yes.
Because, yeah, it's not fun when you don't like them. So, yeah, make sure you do that.
My safeties were not actually like where I wanted to go, where I would see myself being happy. So make sure you have a safety that if push does come to shove, that you will be happy there, you will thrive there, and you will grow there. Because my safety, I didn't apply in-state, and my only safety was Arizona.
Yeah.
And everywhere else, like I said, I would have gone for academic like majors, and I applied to like I think 8 schools academically. So, but again, if I got the most money, I got a full ride at Arizona, I wouldn't have been happy there. And so my safeties weren't actually like options that would have been good. So make sure you have good safeties.
Yeah, and like,
Like pretty much everyone else, I definitely did the whole top 10 list. Like, that's definitely a common theme. Also, something else for me that I don't know, I just came up with this idea just watching a movie one time. Like, my favorite actors, like, where did my favorite actors go? And so that's actually how I found out about Fordham, because Denzel Washington went there. And I was just researching colleges. I looked at the top 10 list. And so from there, I went to the college's website. I looked at their courses that they offered. Did they offer things I liked? Did they offer African American studies, anthropology, all those things? Like, know what you like. And I also looked at the videos of the students. Like, what was the students' energy? How did they interact with the other students? What was their take on the college? All those things. and I definitely looked at the programs, the theater programs, to see what they offered and like what techniques they use and what type of methods they use is within the teaching. And so, because I know what I want to do and what path I want to go down. So just really trying to understand yourself and what you want and what the college has to offer, because definitely applying to a whole bunch of schools that you really don't know about is a waste of money. Because I did a couple of them, I was like, and I kind of wasted that money, so, and I kind of regret that. So, yeah.
And also, kind of to something that Nan said, I think if you're applying to like some in-state schools or like places you can drive that aren't too far and not too like financially of a burden to go visit, I would go visit because it really changes your perspective on the school. Like you can think one way about a school, and then when you get on campus and you see the people, you see the energy, it's completely different, and and you can decide whether it's not somewhere you want to be or not. So I think yeah, wait for your like final schools. Like if you have to go like all the way across the country, wait until you've actually gotten accepted. But for schools like that you think could be an option, like a possible safety that you'd be happy going to, definitely tour as soon as possible because you'll run out of time for sure.
That's true.
And don't like think that like colleges in Alabama or like what colleges that are close are not amazing options. Because like comparing like, because like one thing that I was told to do was like take away the name of the school and just look at the program, and there are so many beautiful options that are so close. Like never bog down because I'm not New York and I'm not in Los Angeles, because there are just so many schools out there, and it's so really like you are going to college for you and so that you can grow and for your career. So it doesn't matter what everybody else says, it's for your own benefit. So if you feel like this place fits but nobody's ever heard of it or this and that, then that's where you should go, because it ultimately will be your decision and you'll regret going just so you can say, oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Just because it really is for you and for you.
I want to piggyback on that. There are, and this is no offense to all of you because you're all wonderful people and went to great colleges. There are so many good colleges and universities in this field, and they don't all exist in New York and LA. And the field has turned and developed in a way that being present in the city of New York does not necessitate having a career anymore. You can do this from other places. Most of the big universities have showcases in which once you are done with the program and ready to actually be seen, we'll go take you to see the power brokers in New York and LA. So it's just not vital. Great schools. But there are many, many more, and many of them get overlooked because they don't hit these top 10 lists because they're not sitting in whoever makes these top 10 lists.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
the most unscientific, data-driven way to set a list ever of these top 10 lists. But it's true. So for example, I have a meeting on Thursday, a Zoom meeting with the chair of the University of Nebraska. They have a program, you'd say, Nebraska? What do they do there? They have the Johnny Carson School of Theater and Film. They were endowed with all of Johnny Carson's Tonight Show money. That program takes 25 students. It's a conservatory, and they shoot films, VR, video games. They have production studios there. Their students do musical theater, and then shoot video games, and like they are doing all of the industry stuff that some of you talk about. Like I think I want to do some of this and that. They're doing it, and they have a ton of scholarship money because they are not sitting in New York City where 90,000 applicants go. So there are more of those. So if you're looking for other options outside the ones you can find on the top 10 list, Ms. Rutsky knows a whole lot about college, and I do too. So in addition to that, like talk to us. There are other options that we can expand that list.
And there
Not
was
to say that nobody remembers this anymore, but like in our first initial meetings in sophomore or junior year, if they bring something up, I'll always say, would you like a list? And I give them a list, and it may not exactly match whatever you're Googling, but it's going to give you some amazing theater programs with a huge range, or amazing film programs with a huge range of possibilities out there. There's one back in the back that I'll give the lead.
Yes.
As a starting point.
Get that
And also think about, when it comes to film especially, and videos as well, things are being made in other places other than New York and LA. So some of the, Atlanta, New Orleans, New Mexico is a huge place for films being made. So there are different, hotspots around the country. You don't even have to stay in the US. So, and there's usually a lot more scholarship money if you're willing to choose colleges in less popular places, because those places have to market harder and attract top students.
Something I really want to say, I forgot to mention, like the main thing I did was I went on their website and I was like, do you have theater scholarships? How much do these theater scholarships offer? That's what I was looking at. That was probably the main thing and the main decider, and that has really got me where I was and what I wanted to be. So, because I was able to have choices and choose what would best fit me. Because when I walked on Fordham, I was like, I didn't have to go there, but I walked on the campus, I was like, okay, this is for me. You know, because I had multiple options, because I looked at those scholarship lists.
And a word to the wise, just so you know, for people who have multiple interests, like, you know, Nayland being interested in anthropology and psychology as well as theater, in most programs you usually have to major in whatever it is you're trying to get the scholarship in. So if you want a theater scholarship, you probably are going to have to major in it to be eligible. There are a few places out there. I've got a small list that I know of, but it's relatively few where they'll give you money without majoring in the art. So just be aware of that.
I have a question for them, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Can you let people know if you have one or two experiences, things that you did in preparation that you thought were like the difference makers?
Yeah.
You know, because obviously there's lots of things, but what were the 1, 2, or 3 things that you did that you think that's, to me, the most important thing that I did in this process? Anyone? Yeah.
Okay, so I think for me, I'll do 2 positive, 1 negative. Okay, so I think for me, one of the most powerful things in my application was probably like the summer programs that I did. I got to experience a lot, and yeah, I think it's not only good for your resume, it's also really, really good for you as a person. So I think that would be something. And then also for me, specifically for film.
Wait, tell us what your summer programs were, just.
Oh yeah, so I can talk about, I did the Telluride Association Critical Black Studies summer camp. It's like a branch of Cornell. They provide it for Black students. They also have it for just people of color in general, and it's a 6-week-long program. It's incredible. Yeah, it's fully paid for. You get to go and stay on either Cornell campus, University of Maryland campus, different campuses, and just basically live and learn with a group of students who are really passionate about learning. So it's really awesome. I did that, and I also did Black Girls Film Camp, which is a film camp for Black girls, and it's an amazing network. I literally just got back from a trip last night. They flew us out to University of Southern California for free. And I'm an alumni now, so those are the opportunities. Yeah, so I'm not even in the program really, I'm just an alumni. But yes, so those are some of the opportunities that I got to do, and I think those really impacted my resume and also like me as a person. So, and for film specifically, I think making something that really came from the heart, like something that really mattered to me for my supplemental film, because in a lot of these applications they'll ask you for a supplemental application. So I think definitely like creating something from your heart and something that's actually meaningful to you, not just something that looks great, not just something that, or like, I don't know, I guess you guys can speak on monologues, but yeah, I think genuinely like putting your heart into it, I think that's what makes the difference. Something that I didn't do that I really, really wish I did, focus on your ACT, and I know people hate to hear about like test scores and stuff like that, but I think genuinely, and I know some people are bad at it, and I think you can get into school and you can get scholarships without it, but it is a way to fall back on if you need the money academically. So I think if you think you can get a good score on your tests and you think you can get the money, I really think you should put energy into it. I think it's worthwhile, because a lot of scholarships are, you know, SAT, ACT based. Not all of them. There are some really good scholarships for merit, for GPA, acting or DPA, stuff like that. So, but I think that's a more sure thing. I wish I would have done that for my experience.
There are schools where your grades and your ACTs and those things are vital.
Yeah.
There are some schools that cannot take you if you don't meet the minimum requirements of the school. So that matters, like that. University of Nebraska, for example, is a Big Ten school. They have a standard that they don't bend because you're talented. So care about that. Like, if you think grades don't matter, they will. Yeah, please.
Also, it's hard, trust me, it's hard, but I took my ACTs all of this year and it was horrible, it sucked. Don't do that. Like, actually, if you take a year to study, you can get a good score. All pencils down. Do all pencils down.
It's
It got
like
my
an
score
ICT
like
prep.
5 points up,
Yes.
I'm telling you, in like 3 weeks. Y'all have to do that. That's really good if you want to get your test scores up.
He makes you call him coach, and he's like Coach Heron. He's amazing. I love him.
This is an ACT prep.
Yes.
All
Is
that
it
expenses
course?
down.
Yes.
You
Do you
can
know
do
about
private
this?
lessons
Do you know about
or
Yeah, I've also got a list of other ACT and SAT test prep, but that's one that is consistently well reviewed. Locally. There's a couple of them that have a really good reputation. And we have individual tutors we can recommend too.
Yeah.
Real quick show of hands, because I'm curious about this. How many of you did summer programs in preparation for what you doing? How many of you are going to the college you did the summer program at? Okay, so I say that because there's this tendency to go after these summer programs with the idea that they're launching pads in the colleges, and I want to. That is not yet generally what happens. So that avenue is not generally the linchpin into those colleges. Right? And often they're very, very expensive. That if you're looking for summer prep programs to get you ready for college, look for the best one for you and the one that works for you, affordability and other things. Again, happy to discuss those with you, which ones work. But be careful chasing ones based on the college you want to get into. They're usually extreme. That's a common thing that happens, and they're usually, the faculty often isn't even in the same room.
Yeah,
That's a very different thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for one of my top choices as well, a lot of the students, like a lot of this, okay. So like University of Michigan has their I guess their summer program, and only actually 3 of the students that did the University of Michigan summer program actually ended up at the school. So like the percentage rate is just so small that it's very hard to like say. So I'll just say that that's also true. But I can go into my pros and cons, whatever. I know that a lot of y'all are asking, but Moonifieds for me, if you have the financial standing for it, really helps me. So I did a program called College Edition Coach, and it's like a college advisory, just a college edition coach. So it helped me. I started that last summer, and it helped me. I didn't utilize this as much as you could, just because I also go to ASPA and there are people, you know what I mean? But they
Sorry,
helped
say
me
that
pick-
again slowly.
I also go to ASPA, and they help me pick monologues and songs. So it's not essential at all. But a lot of my friends did it. Bradley Seals did it. He graduated 2 years ago, and so I was like, why don't I do it? And so it helps you pick monologues and songs, just like a college advisor that you can ask questions to whenever you need. But it is if you can financially afford it, then it's a really great resource. And so one of the programs that they do in November is called Moonifieds, and it's where a bunch of schools go to one hotel in Dallas, Texas, and you just audition for all of them in a weekend. And so it's really nice because I had a very long college list, and I think I had 20 schools and I auditioned for 11 of them at Moonifieds, which was so great. And one thing about, at least from my experience personally, was I already heard back from 6 of my schools already in December, so that helped me narrow down a lot of my list, because I ended up applying for 20 schools after callbacks, but I initially applied to 26, but once I already got into 6 that one of them was one of my top choices. I got into PACE in December, and knowing that I'd gotten in there made me I was able to rack off a few. But if you're able to have the opportunity, it's really, really nice. It's connected with College Edition Coach, but you don't have to be a member of the coaching program to go.
Say that again slowly, please.
You don't need to be a member of the coaching program to go. So so no stress about that. But it is a very beautiful resource. I would say for me personally, it really eased my mind. You're also you're able to meet so many other students who are going through what you're going through as well. So it's just great to see where you are, also see how much ASPA has really prepared you, because truly, guys, do not, it's hard, but it's not that hard. ASPA has truly prepared us. I'll say it. I'm sorry. Truly, we have auditions, we do, I promise, we do our 13-bar cuts, we have Broadway Dreams come in, these are the connections that we need and the doors that are already open for us just going to this school. And don't worry, we're in Birmingham, Alabama. It doesn't matter, actually. I'm gonna be so honest, it's been such a beautiful resource for me, and also to know that we have faculty and staff that who you know what I mean, care about us and really just give us what we need. So I'm just super thankful for that. And that is a resource. So I would say utilizing your ASPA community as well as that, I think, was very helpful for me. As well as preparation. like however old you are, just start thinking about stuff. Because for me, it was very stressful because we did do a fall musical. I was like in rehearsals every night and like trying to like write essays and stuff like that. And that was a lot of work on my end. And so if I did that earlier, that'd be very helpful. So like Common App, if anybody needs any prompts for essays, I don't care. I would share them with anybody. So there are a lot of like Common App and supplemental essays that Ms. Rutsky also has a lot of prompts too that they'll ask you. And so you're honestly just having to rewash and recycle a lot of things. So like having like your essentials, like you'll have your Common App essay, which honestly, I don't know if I can list them all off, but Ms. Rutsky has a list. And then a lot of supplementals if you want to do musical theater or theater. It's like, why do you want to pursue this major, or why do you want to go to this university? And I think things that you want to focus on those are just how theater has like molded you as a person, and then how will this school help you with that? I think that's what a lot of people forget, is like saying like, why I want to do musical theater, but also you're going to university to learn, so make sure that there's a pivotal point where you're like, and this is how Carnegie Mellon's going to help me do that, you know what I mean? Just so they realize that they're a resource that you need. So yeah, I would say writing your essays early, and yeah, utilizing the resources.
Yes, I definitely agree with the essays. I think my essays got me into a lot of the schools that I applied for academically. Like, the reason I got into Berkeley was because of my essays. I don't have the stats for it by any means. But for me with my essays, I wrote about like a lot of different prompts, and I would not recommend, if you're going into the arts, do not make your don't make your Common App essay about theater.
Yeah.
No matter how much you love it, no matter how much it's a part of you, because you will be writing about it no matter what. I wrote on my slide rooms or my second source kind of websites where I talk about theater, you will have 3 or 4 prompts about theater. So you have your academic advisor and the Department of Theater all reading the same essays about how much you love theater. They want to see more about what you can offer as an individual. So I would really strongly suggest to write about something that just capitalize on the most unique part of yourself within your audition. Because for me, with like one of my schools, well, this was for USC, I had to make a video and I had to do 90 seconds of me talking about myself. And I was like, okay, so what do I have that most people don't have? That's alopecia. And so I painted a Bob Ross painting on my head, and I just like talked about alopecia and how like there's not enough like in the industry and like the lack of representation for 90 seconds. And I think that that's one of the reasons I stood out and I got that 200 person callback out of the 8,000 was because of that video. So I really like suggest like just whatever makes you unique, really capitalize on that, whether or not it's a lot of who you are, just because it helps you stand out. And also, my favorite saying with using ASPA, I don't think I used Mr. Manzelli in my process till way too late.
But he's working
Yes.
for the year. He's seeing
Yes.
applicants every single year. He knows what we're talking about. Like, please trust him.
And I went to him and I was like, hey, I have an interview, because for my USC audition, I had to have an interview, which most schools don't require that, but I had to sit down with everyone and just talk about myself, which was interesting. But I went to Mr. Manzelli, and I think that the reason I didn't go to him was because I was insecure with my application in the beginning. I was like, what if I don't get into these schools and I take Mr. Manzelli like on like with the journey, and I have to be like, oh yeah, I got rejected from there. Which was a really bad philosophy, and don't do that. A lot of my application, like in hindsight, I look back, I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't have done that. So definitely use Mr. Manzelli, use a lot of different teachers, show those pre-screens to everyone and anyone. I didn't do that because I was so insecure with them. Don't do that. That's my don't do. And then also, I only got rejected from one theater school. Everywhere else I got into with some sort of scholarship, the one place I got rejected from was the place that I did my virtual audition. Whether you can afford to go in person or not is your family's situation. My family can afford to go into person, so we did that, and we did those unified, we did the in-person schools. And I think personally for me, that made a huge difference. My Zoom audition was so bad. I had trouble with my camera. They told me to move everything. They're like, the lighting, you can't see. So I was flustered. I was like, you're over here, I'll move it over here. It was a horrible experience, and it was all technological. My acting was, I think it was okay. I think that it was great. It got me out of the zone. It was a horrible technological fail, and I have nightmares thinking about it. I think that if I got I went in person, there's a chance I would have gotten in. I'm not saying I would have, but I definitely think that it was a bad experience. So if you do the online route, make sure you have the lighting correct. Like, just sit with it for like 5 to 10 minutes on like that Zoom thing, like pull up something and just make sure it looks good. I didn't do that. I was like, I've used this computer before. I know the room, what it looks like now. So, and I definitely think that there was an energy when I went into the rooms that I got with other places. I took schools off my list because I met people on the thing and I was like, they were really sweet. But there's one school I walked into the room and they were like, oh, you're here for Unifieds. Are you auditioning for other schools or just us? And they said it in a term, in a way I was like, okay, so I took that one off my list. And I was like, that's not for me. But when I went into like my USC room, I was talking with the people there and it was just a really good like conversation. I was like, okay, if I get in, this will definitely be the place for me. So I think that like going there, you can just really get a feel.
Yeah, I agree. And like I also did all of mine in person, if that's like a resource, but also like using like Unifieds and Unifieds. Like I did all of my, I did all my auditions in person, but even out of my 20 callbacks that I went to, I only went to 3 locations. I only went to Dallas, New York, and Chicago. And so like there are definitely ways, like, and like Campbell talked about this last year. She's a alumni from just last year. She goes to Pace University, and she did this whole process too. If you have any questions, but there are definitely there are definitely ways that you can travel that are financially just like sustainable for like families.
Yes.
If you're able to do that, and I think it was just super helpful for me. And also like what Melissa was saying, like the energy in the room is very important, but also a lot of people think that I have to go on campus to go to these schools to get in. Like, because a lot of schools will have either like they'll travel to a place and they'll also have on campus. That is not true. I did not go to one school on campus and I got into every single school I applied to. So there is no reason why that should be a hindrance for you or anything like that. So just, there are a lot of stigmas that people will say that are all lies. So.
Let's pause for a minute and explain Unifieds.
Yes.
People who are not familiar with Unifieds. What are Unifieds?
So Unifieds is kind of like Moonifieds, but it doesn't cost money and it's completely public. So there is Unifieds in New York, and there's one in Chicago, and there's one in Los Angeles. So there are different schools.
Pardon me, they are group auditions where schools gather together in one place
Yes.
to see multiple groups of students
Yes.
in one place. That's what
Yes.
they are. Right?
Yeah.
They're big cattle call kind of auditions, but they're graduate school does them, undergrad does them. They're fantastic ways to be seen by a lot of schools and by schools you didn't think you wanted to be seen by.
Yes, you can do walk-in auditions.
Like, because there's 45 people in the room, somebody might actually really like you who isn't on your list, and you realize that's what happened with me in graduate school.
Yeah.
Where you found someone who wants to work with you and really wants you, which is incredibly valuable. To have a school want you as opposed to you desperately wanting a school.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, that's great, but if a school wants you, there's time, energy put into you.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, you're so good. And so like Unifieds, it might have changed over the years, but it's not like you get into one room and there's gonna be like 45 different tables, 45 different schools. Like that's not how it works. It's how you walk into a room just with your university and then you have the audition, but it'll be in like a studio. So like when I was in New York, it's like Ripley Gear Studios. It's just like in New York City. But when you apply to your school, when you get callbacks, they will have locations and times that you can apply. And so they'll give you your location and address and your time. And so when it won't say Unifieds on the audition, but you know that Unifieds is between January 27th and 28th. They're in New York, so you know that the school is going to Unifieds. So it's kind of confusing if you don't know that those platforms are available to you. But if you schedule a location that is at the same time as the Unifieds audition, then you will be doing them affiliated with Unifieds, which is very easy. Because like you can schedule an audition that's like 9:30 and the other one at 9:45, and you can go to both because they're just like next door, so it's really easy for them.
Are we doing questions at some point?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to just say one thing real quick before we jump in. It was to this idea of coaching, and coaches are great. If you can afford coaches, there's many valuable coaches. We've had students who've done really well with coaches. We have students who have not had a coach except for us, and they've gotten into fantastic schools on this list as well. So there's two different ways. I just want to say this to parents and students. The application for next year and the year after is already basically sitting there on their website.
That's true.
You do not have to wait until the last minute to do this. And in fact, that is the problem. Start now.
Yes.
You will have to do monologues. The number is already sitting there in front of you.
The time.
You can be working on them with me now.
Yeah.
And I say this to parents politely, and thank you, Melissa. Please do not hide your auditions from us.
Yeah.
This has happened every year of my life. I have students for years, work with them all the time, and then all of a sudden college comes, I'm like, well, can I see your piece? Well, you know, not showing me the most valuable thing you've ever done.
Don't
And
do
then I
that.
get them last minute. Or like I saw one nail into the end. I was like, Nail, show me your piece. I was like, okay. Then we worked.
Yeah.
Melissa came to me with your interview, right? And I think we
Yes.
had a really great
We
session.
did. I still have the notes if anyone wants to.
But it was literally an interview session. So it's not that I do anything. It's that I sat with. It's the work of coaches, right? You have them here as well. Is all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Please don't hide your stuff from us. I'm only going to lovingly try to make it better.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to do. And we've been around the block on this a few times. You know, even with the things we've learned from each of our students. So.
And like he said, the stuff is on the website. This is what I did over the summer. I started in July and I made an Excel spreadsheet of everything that I needed. I had my Pace, I had NYU, I had Syracuse, and I had them all alphabetical order. I had the dates that they were due. I had what I needed the cut wise, and I just like highlighted stuff. I color coded it, and I had like the descriptions of the school. And like, so when you are making those school specific essays, make sure you go on their website, and if they say they love community, they love collaboration, write those.
Yes.
Like those big
Their
5
mission
words.
statement.
Yes.
That is what your essay should
Reword
be.
it. So I just had an Excel spreadsheet and just make sure you're following that closely. I missed Chapman's deadline because that website was so confusing. The deadline was November 1st, but it said it was January 18th for a BA, but I wanted a BFA. And so I missed that deadline and that was not fun. But definitely make sure you're following everything closely.
Yeah. I just want to speak on that too. Like, personally, I'm happy with my college decision. Like, I'm going where I wanted to go. But I was like, if I was born in another life, I would have like sucked at this whole thing. Like, I learned a lot from like kind of my laziness throughout the process. Like, be very, very organized, because I didn't apply to a lot of schools because when like the time for a lot of applications were due, I heard back from SCAD and I knew I wanted to go there already, and then I got in, I was like, okay, period.
I'm done.
No, that's it. But so I didn't really apply to a lot of other schools, except for like maybe like Georgia State, and then Arizona was like my safety because it also had a film program that was like close to California. But just like, if you know that you're a type of person who wants to big colleges or wants a lot of options, have them all, have their due dates, have what they need, and put all your college prompts, whatever, in just a big Google Doc or something,
and then-
and recycle it.
Yeah.
Or like type some out, recycle them, and look over that bunch of times so you make sure you didn't put another college's name in another, you know what I
That is
mean?
true.
That would be
Don't do
detrimental.
Yeah, and I have a spreadsheet prompt that like anybody needs, because for musical theater it's very complicated. Like there's a separate music requirement, acting requirement, and dance requirement. So it's fine. Also, like with callbacks, it's confusing.
Yeah.
But it's all there, and I'll keep my stuff on it if anything changes. But things will change through the year, so be careful. But yeah, just make sure that you're getting updated information, because a lot of things, like if you're starting right now and you're like 2025 or 2026, but they just end up changing their prompt a little bit, just make sure that you're like on that. But it won't be anything that's super.
Also, I highly suggest making a whole entire different Google account, because your email will be filled with everything, and so I can keep track of stuff a lot easier if I'm not getting my Sephora emails, filling up my junk mail. So I had a whole entire different account. That's where all of my essays are. I think I have a one Word doc with over 26 pages of every single essay I've ever written. I have the finalized version. Send those as like essays to Miss Evans. She is amazing with that essay. She told me one of them. She was like, "Yeah, this last sentence is not doing any sort of this part of justice." So I reworked that entire lesson, and it changed my essay genuinely. So I would just do a whole entire different Google account, because why clutter up your main one?
Yeah,
So just do that.
I wanted to speak on something like Melissa said, but also that has been kind of circulating. Like, use your resources, bro. Even the core teachers, our specialty teachers, just not even
Letters
just
of recommendation.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Those recommendation letters will carry you through a lot of your college process, especially as people going into like the arts, like if that's where you want to go. Like, well, that's what this speaks about. Anyway, like scholarships, like those colleges tend to be very expensive, or like even scholarships from the school, scholarships from other places. You will always be asked about recommendations and kind of like, what have you done with this? What have you done with this? And ASPO provides a lot of like opportunities for you to do stuff outside of school, for you to connect with your teachers and like, you know, have like, start getting a good relationship with your teachers, because trust, you're gonna want those recommendation letters, because sometimes schools ask for 3 to 5 to however many,
Yeah.
they usually don't ask for like, you know, like 20 or anything
Yeah.
like that, but like, they ask for more than you would think of, and so, really being able to have someone that you know you can rely on to like, be able to, give you a good recommendation is very, very important, and outside of school too, like, don't only make connections with your teachers, have connections with people outside of school, or you know, things like that, because that can get you into some really good opportunities and walk you through some really good doors that, like, you know, might not have been there previously, and get you some really good scholarships for all of these expensive schools, guys.
All right, let's take a minute. I want Dalen to get a word in edgewise here. That's one of the things he can really speak to is extracurriculars and service outside of schools. And then we'll open it up to some questions.
Yeah. So for me, actually, I thought about it after the fact. Mr. Drexel can attest. I definitely have a lot of extracurriculars and a whole bunch of stuff. The way it's put in Common App, there's like a small section, and you only get like the 250 characters, I think it is. And so you have to really working in it tight. And so if you have a lot of extracurriculars, like I think I was using like one box for 2, like to work it in, but also don't feel like you use the best. I'm trying to say this the correct way. What I'm trying to say is, I feel like I put so many of my extracurriculars that people thought I was lying, but I know I did all those things. But because a lot of people do like add a lot of fluff and a lot of stuff, they think that, I think colleges a lot of times, especially bigger name colleges, they think that you can be adding on to things and stuff like that. So cut down the bare minimum with the words. Don't feel like if you have so much that you're filling out everything, if you have like one box and you're putting 2 and 3 in there, then just put 1. Like, it's okay not to put every single thing in there. Also, extracurriculars, they definitely help you grow around your ability to understand what you want to do when you go to college. That was something that was really big for me and helped me get to know myself and what I wanted to do. Is there anything else that you wanted me to speak to specifically? Okay.
Jump into that because he has such a big extracurricular resume. Okay, I promised that we would have Q&A, and we're running a little bit short on time. I apologize, but my phone is up there recording us, so I'm not able to watch through. So let's open this up to questions, and I think we'll probably cover a lot of the other things that way.
I have a question for Nayland. So Nayland, are you considering double majoring, or are you sticking with just theater and BA?
I am majoring in theater and minoring in psychology.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
just curious.
After you.
So, this is again for Nayland. How did you decide that you wanted to minor in psychology and major in theater? Because as of right now, I'm kind of confused which one I should major in versus which one I should.
So for me, gosh, I love both with everything in me. But definitely theater is where my heart is, and acting is where my heart is. So I knew that was like, that's what I've had several opportunities over the course of high school to spend the entire day just working on acting. And I don't know if I could do that with psychology. So and I was like, well, you know what, if I major in this, then I get that time. But also if I'm minoring, I get a little bit of time to do psychology, which I love. That also feeds me in a different way. So it really is about what feeds you and what fulfills you in a way that you're going to be spending most of your time there.
Yeah, I'm gonna add something because that was something that came up with me too, is like whether or not I should do the BA route and minor in something. Because for me, I'm a little scared with getting an arts degree, but you can always switch out of the program. So I can go to USC and hate it within a month and then switch and get my psychology degree, but it's really hard to switch into a theater degree.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. You can leave your 18-person seat easy. It's really hard to get that 18-person spot. So that's my suggestion. If you're on the fence, do both. Apply to both places. Apply for everything across the board and just see what sticks and what works for you at the end. Because the options will make itself clear at the end. Yeah.
Ms. Rutsky, can you speak a little bit about how like students and parents can tap into you as a resource and what you offer and how you have supported them over the years?
Definitely. we tend to do most of our work one-on-one with juniors, just because of numbers. But I'm open to speaking with and meeting with students earlier than that, and parents at any time. So feel free to call, email, whatever. I'm open. I'm happy to have meetings or whatever. And we're doing more and more group programs with the 9th and the 10th graders as well. But in general, when we really start, I work with students one-on-one junior year, and I meet with them and we talk about what they're interested in. I give them resources like, if they say they're interested in theater, or Nayland came to me and said, I want to do theater and psychology, and I think I want to do a BA, so I helped him develop a whole list of BA programs, where he also might have a good opportunity to get a scholarship since he wanted to go that route. So very much one-on-one is very helpful. But some of the resources that you're mentioning, I'm just sort of smiling going, I give you that spreadsheet, but people don't realize, if they're not paying attention, it's hard for me to get the information out. We have a Google Classroom that Ms. Marble and the other, Ms. McCombs, the other grade level counselor, and I share, and I'll put information like that in there. So there's a spreadsheet, for example, that you can download, and it has all of this information that you can put in, like your college and your majors, and you have to customize it for whatever you're doing and add musical theater and the extra sections that you need. But the basics are there and they're color coded and that kind of thing. We do help with essays, so we do an essay boot camp. Ms. Evans and I spend the entire first week of senior year teaching essays, teaching them about what colleges are looking for and having them draft essays and going over sample essays, and then we read them and give feedback. And then Ms. Evans and I and the other English teachers, we're available to read essays at any time. So students are not on their own. We're happy to help them with that. And if you wanted to start earlier than that, I'm happy to read them as well. So that's not a problem. What else we do? We bring in a lot of colleges to visit. So they're mainly coming in the fall, so pay attention to those. We tend to share them on announcements. And also, everybody has a SCORE account, or at least by the time in 10th grade, they all get a SCORE account. And that's a resource to help you research colleges, but also to know, for example, if a college is coming to visit and you have it on your list on SCORE, it'll start emailing you and saying, hey, guess what? NYU is coming. Or, oh, hey, guess what? University of Alabama is coming and here's the date. And they'll send you reminders like that.
God bless you.
I was just gonna say, was there a question?
I did.
Just like 10th graders, meet with her as early as you can. That's when I met with her, like the beginning of 10th grade. And I would just start putting resources from there. I think that's the best thing to do. And just like they were talking about, start the Common App. I started the Common App in July, and so a lot of my stuff was out the way by the time we got to Urinetown, so I wasn't as stressed, even though it was a lot, because it still was a lot. But even though I started early, it just took that weight off my shoulders. So definitely start early.
And even 9th graders are welcome to meet with me. I mean, here's kind of the truth is, there's a lot of you, and there's one of me. I'm really, really good one-on-one and helping students when they're, in front of me and talking with me, and we have that relationship. It's much harder if students aren't willing to reach out. I can't go chasing them down. I mean, we do a lot of meetings, I'll come to specialty or I'll come to homeroom, but that's still a group setting. If students actually meet with me one-on-one, there's a lot more that we can do. So if you can establish that relationship and I know who you are and what you're interested in, what your family circumstances are, whatever it is, it's easier for us to work together. And it's easier for me to sort of, I might be up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, oh my gosh, I should tell Nayland about this program. Oh my gosh, and then I send them the email. But that's not gonna happen if we haven't established that relationship, or if you only come for your one required meeting junior year. So it's harder to do things that way. What else do I mention?
You mentioned the auditions, the unified. Is the application themselves, do you have to apply individual to each school, or is there like a website where they collect all your, because I know like Cornell, Harvard, Yale, and all of those have is there something similar for theater?
Yes.
Where you just go to one site and like they share your
so
your
like
essays and
there's a website called Accepted, and that'll be like, there's also like for UT schools a different thing. But it's like your common application is like where a bunch of schools, you just make one application and then you'll just submit it to just a bunch of schools. Accepted.com is like that, but you do have separate applications, but they most of the time ask you for the same thing. So they'll have like this is where all the schools will ask for all of your callback information, for all of your like pre-screen information, just like your self-taping. So like if I'm just like taking you through it, you'll open it and then it'll ask you just like information about yourself, and then it'll ask you to submit your first song, your second, if you're doing musical theater, first song, second song, your first monologue, second monologue, and then your dance pre-screen. And so these self-tapes is what we're saying to get out of the way early, just because it's a lot of work to do, but that's things we work on with Mr. Manzelli. But those are just like self-tapes of just like regular 90-second or 60-second cuts of your material, and then you'll submit that to all the schools. It is separate for each school, but Accepted has a portal called the Common Pre-Screen. So it's like a lot of schools will be asking you the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're asking for a 90-second cut of this song, I can record one 90-second cut and then send it to like 4 of my schools. But there is one caveat. They'll like ask you, some schools will ask you full body, some schools will ask you close up, some schools will ask you 3/4. So like I had like 3 videos of everything, but I knew that in the summer. So when I was recording in the summer, I knew what to do, and so it wasn't as stressful. But yeah, but it's on there, the Common Pre-Screen's on there right now, so you can start making your cuts of songs, monologues, and started choreographing what you want to do for your dance, or reach out to Miss Zoe, she's a really good resource for that too. And just figuring out like what you can do.
Yeah, and there's also ways to get around the shots.
Yeah,
I filmed mine with Meg. I've worked with her for years, but yeah, she zoomed in on we did a full body one, and then she just zoomed in and like cropped it, and it didn't get like grainy or pixelated or anything like that. But I think, how many models did you have? I had one classical that I used. My classical was inverse because UCLA required it to be inverse, and I think also USC required it to be inverse. And I was like, I'm just gonna play it safe and do that because I didn't want to memorize more. I'm sorry. And then I did one classical contemporary and then one classical dramatic, and then that was it.
Yeah, for me, for the material that I needed, because for a lot of programs, like for Carnegie Mellon specifically, you have to like get into the acting program before you get into the musical theater program. So like they'll make you audition for the acting program as well. So like you can apply and then get into just acting and get into MT. But for me, I had to pick a contemporary song, so like something that came out before 1970, and then a pre-1970 song, so a Golden Age song, and then I had to pick a pop rock song, so like something that you like just listen to on the radio. And then for monologues, I had to get a classical comedic, a classical dramatic, a contemporary comedic, a contemporary dramatic, and then just have a wild card in case because when you go to these callbacks, this is actually very great advice. They will just ask you, so what do you have for me? They will really just, do you have anything else that you can show me? And please say yes. Because it's actually really great. Like if you have like a extra song or a pop rock or an extra monologue that you haven't showed them, they love to see you prepared. You don't skip a beat and you do it.
And that's the great thing about ASK, because you have so many monologues.
Exactly.
Something that I really want to emphasize for me this summer before my senior year, when I tell you I really focused on getting to know myself to work on those essays. I journaled a lot, learning my writing process, what my writing skills were. I played in those strengths. I also really worked hard on my acting. I rehearsed monologues. I learned my instrument. I learned just like the different things that I can convey and the different things that make me unique as an actor. So really work on honing your skills, honing in on your skills. I need to slow down. Honing in on your skills, like if you can this time before, because I tell you, it makes so much difference when you know yourself as an actor and as a person.
Is there a fee for, I think some of you were surprised, isn't there a fee for auditions and pre-screening?
Yes,
There is.
there
Go,
is.
wait a minute. Some students can be qualified for something called a fee waiver if you're on free or reduced lunch here at ASFA. You can get fee waivers for your college applications. Those do not apply for auditions or pre-screenings. So that's something to budget for. Can you talk about like how much that can run?
Yes, yeah. So for me personally, it could run from like 75 is like an average just application fee, like common application fee, 75. Some will be a little like lower, like 50 or 40, and some will be a little higher.
It wasn't, I think NYU's was 200, and I ended up canceling the audition. Yeah. So
It's like very, like they can go through very expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like factoring that into the cost, because it really is like, it's a very big expense. But I had something, I was talking with what Nayla was talking about. Walking into the room with confidence, I feel like ASFA really allows you to be prepared for not like the worst, like we do things crazy theater here, but like you need to know that you can trust yourself because you are prepared. Like being here for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 6 years, it doesn't matter. You will know what you're capable of because you've been training that instrument every single day for 3 hours in rehearsals till 7 p.m. Like walk in knowing that you are capable and that you're worthy of this callback, worthy of this audition, and they will feel that energy in the room because so many professors have like really commended like people that are confident, they walk in with a smile, they're really just excited to be there, and they acknowledge the human in the room instead of being like, hi, Sarah Beach, I'm good, like being like a robot.
Yeah, with fee waivers too, whenever those colleges do come to visit ASPA, ask them if they have a code. Most of the time they do. The NYU lady gave me a code. I ended up not using it. I should have, I lost it. And then, like the Juilliard lady, she has, the Juilliard instructor, not lady, she definitely has a code. A lot of these places, if you email them and like, hey, this is gonna add up to be like $2,000, do you have a code? They will most likely give you one because they want you to apply. They want you to walk into the room and be the best person there. And then there's also something said about, they're gonna ask you to do a lot of weird stuff in the audition.
Yeah.
I was told to get behind a chair and just sit behind it and not come out until I felt ready to ask a question. That was something that happened. I would also ask to pretend to be a squirrel in a room. So the more like they're asking to do things, they want us to like work with you.
And see how you can handle correction.
So
yes.
a lot of weird stuff will happen. And then also too, with being part of ASPA, I walked into rooms and I was sitting in a waiting room and every single kid in there was from a performing arts high school. So ASPA does open up a lot of doors and opportunities that you probably wouldn't get you probably definitely wouldn't get if you went to other schools. Because kids are in there and they're like, cool, I go to LaGuardia. And you're just sitting there like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like understanding that like a lot of these students that also are applying, getting to these big schools, haven't learned their Stanislavski technique and all of these things since they were freshmen. We have an advantage. Like know that going into the room that like we've been studying like college students have been studying theater for for however many years that you've been here. So really just be confident in the room.
Naomi's dying to throw something in this conversation.
Oh, I was just gonna say they really. What Mills kind of touched on it. They really will ask you to do some out of pocket stuff. I'm like, what you
What are you
doing?
talking about?
But so I was saying like earlier, preparing over the summer, I knew my instrument, and so I knew what they were asking for. Because before, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have been able to take the note as well. And so, there was something that you touched on that I really wanted to add, and I can't remember what it was. Yeah.
People will walk into their confidence. ASPA teaches you stuff from the beginning freshman year.
Yeah, it's okay. But we go to school together, so if I remember, I'll let you know.
Yes, exactly.
What other questions do you have? We dying to know.
I have a question. So the Unified, is that something that like, it's in these 3 different cities, is it the same schools and you just choose what city's more feasible for you?
It's different schools per city,
So
but
it's-
yeah,
So
but
that's
some
what,
schools.
it's different colleges that are going to each of those cities.
But some schools will go to like New York and Chicago or New York and California, so you can see and like you can look up unifieds.com or unifieds.org and it'll have the list of schools that are coming and they usually come the same year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were saying that has nothing to do with whether you have a coach or not.
Yeah.
Right, and it saves you 2 trips, and it saves you.
Absolutely.
That's what it saves you is the trip and the hotel and all that stuff.
Right.
That adds up.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna say I just ended up doing like 8 schools in like 3 days. So it's just super easy, super stress free.
Applying to 8 schools?
Yeah, like auditioning.
Over a weekend?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I highly encourage to go to the cities that you're applying to, which kind of sounds obvious, but they have like a Chicago one, and I didn't apply to any Chicago schools, so going there wouldn't have been as useful as going to New York, because I went to New York, and then we flew to Syracuse after my audition, and I stepped off the plane, and Syracuse was off my list as soon as I got off the plane, because there was 3 feet of snow. I already told the story to Mr. Manzelli. I said, absolutely not. I applied to mostly Southern California schools, and I'm going to somehow now, and I'm so grateful for that. But really go to places, and Unifieds are in winter, and that's very helpful too, because I am not a cold person, and they were allowed to choose driving during
Oh my
city. I was
god!
like,
I had my earbuds on, guys. It's a moment. It's a moment.
I could have saved that plane trip.
But yeah, and we also toured Case when we were in the city. Book it early. I didn't book my NYU audition, so I would have done it virtually. I ended up, again, like I said, I canceled my NYU audition. I got a call back, and don't do what I did with a lot of my college stuff. I got my USC callback, and I canceled everything else I had, following the the later weeks. Don't do that by any means. Like, don't cut off any strings. I'm just like, USC's where I want to go. I'm going. So I didn't finish a lot of my applications. Don't do that.
I want to just say something real quick. You guys talked about if this helps, because this question gets asked all the time about material. Right? From a monologue standpoint, I can tell you, I'll tell you exactly what they're looking for. Because people say like, is this a good monologue? Is this a good monologue? One, bring it to me. Two, a good monologue is one that is brave and one that shows who you are as a person and an artist.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only definition of a good monologue. If it fits inside the frames of the things they want, there are like 4, 5, 6 different kinds of monologues they ask for. If it fits into that, it must show that you are brave. And it must show that it must show them who you are as an artist and a person. That is more valuable than trying to nail what you think is going to be the perfect thing that they want to see.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. They see hundreds of people, and the first thing they want to know is, this is the chart. The chart is, are they talented enough? Check. 2, are they interesting? Is this somebody who's going to show us who they are, and we want to deal with them for 4 years? Yeah, they seem interesting. Check. Are they willing to be brave, daring, and take a risk so that we have something to work with as a professor? Check. You check those 3 boxes off, you have a chance. Right? If you don't check those boxes off, somebody will. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I say, like, just show me the piece.
Yeah.
No, and Mr. Sorry, I didn't mean to go. Mr. Mazzilli definitely helped me with all my Shakespeare ones. He sent me a lot of great lists. I also, like I said, on my Google Drive, I have pages of monologues I copy and pasted. Personally, people say not to watch monologues. Don't go on YouTube and search for monologues of like random people doing stuff. I listened to Young Arts finalists, like hour-long things, and I saw pieces that I liked, and I went to the comment sections and I read the whole entire plays. And read the plays before you pick a monologue, because there could be something offensive in there. Or like, there was one where I loved the monologue, and then I realized it's a person of color and a whole entire character identity is around being a POC. So if I walked into an audition room with that piece, that would not have been appropriate at all. So make sure you're researching it. And Young Arts, like I said, and definitely with Mr. Mazzilli, he helps a lot.
Yeah, and yeah, just making sure that you're not. Yeah, just making sure that you're not like playing like a 90-year-old that like also has a dialect. Like there are like tell you requirements, just making sure that, like it's realistic that you would play that role in the next 5 or 10 years. Like they will say that on the website, but a lot of people still don't say that. So just making sure they want to see like what Mr. Clay was saying, who you are.
And the definition of a good essay is actually very similar. Basically, a good college essay, I should be able to pick it up and read it and say, oh, Nayland wrote this, or oh, Melissa wrote this. I should be able to feel you, even if I've never helped with, I should be able to feel you come through. I don't care what the topic is. I want your story to come through and be unique and interesting. Brave is even better. I want something that says, yeah, I like this kid. I want them to come to my college. This is interesting. It's not a cookie cutter essay. So don't Google great college essays, because you'll get, generic ones. You'll get like the Costco essay and everybody tries to imitate it. Don't try to imitate somebody else's style.
And so one last thing that I remember too, I think we kind of mentioned this, but just making sure that like university applications and musical, like and your arts applications are completely separate. Like the admissions officers that are going to be watching your pre-screens and the ones that are going to be reading your essays are different, but you also have to get into both schools.
Right.
So like making sure that you're putting an emphasis, like for my Carnegie Mellon auditions, the academic application that I chose, I mentioned theater because that's my major, but I made sure that I was going to appeal to the admissions officers that work for the university, because like some schools won't even call you back until you at least have the, like what we were talking about, the minimal credentials for the school. So making sure that like, yeah, we're talking about GPA, grades, and also focusing on the academics, because a lot of people would just say like, oh yeah, if you've got the talent, you can make it. But some schools won't even watch your videos if you don't reach the minimum. So just making sure.
And it's not too late to take those AP classes. It's not too
Yes.
late to try. And
Boost
like,
your GPA.
I will swear by this. I have a weighted that's a pretty good GPA. My unweighted is okay. Those essays. Make sure everyone reads them. Really like work on those, because that's going to be like their final decision. And I would say 85% of college plays, pieces, or like not plays, or pieces, like they will not accept you unless you have a 3.0 minimum.
It depends on the university acceptance
like
rate.
the only places that don't really, because all of my schools when I was in those unified auditions, they're like, we can love love you, we will rank all of you. That's how I was told. They rank you based on how much they want you. If it's like a 6-person program or a 10-person program, they rank you by order, and then the admissions office makes the final decision, is what I was told.
That's true.
So you can be number 1, and if you have a 1.6, they will reject you. They will appeal your case and really fight for you. But if your grades and your essays are made by the admissions office at the end of the day.
That's true.
And I wanna, oh,
I'm gonna cut us off because we're running out of, I think we're past 5:30 and we're
Yeah.
light and mindful of time. But if you have individual questions, please, stay around, and hopefully people who can answer yours individually will.
And Ms. Rusky, and you're available for parents to make appointments with you and to come meet you? And
Absolutely. You're welcome to email me, you can telephone me, all that information is on the website.
Our website at afterschool.org.
And don't be stressed out, y'all all got this. I'm so excited to see where everybody goes. Yes. Thank you so much.
yeah.